I'm Amy Goodman as we turn now to Maryland. And new documents revealing police surveillance of local activists opposed to war and the death penalty. The American Civil Liberties Union released documents Thursday showing undercover officers from the Maryland State Police spied on peace groups and anti-death penalty protesters for over a year from 2005 to 2006, when Robert Ehrlich Jr. was governor. On Friday, current Governor Martin O'Malley vowed not to allow police surveillance of peace groups. The police summaries and intelligence logs obtained by the ACLU under the Maryland Public Information Act reveal that covert agents infiltrated groups like the anti-war Baltimore Pledge of Resistance, the Baltimore Coalition Against the Death Penalty, and the Committee to Save Vernon Evans, a death row prisoner. According to the documents, police monitored and entered the names of activists in a law enforcement database of people suspected of being terrorists or drug traffickers. Maryland ACLU staff attorney David Roca released the documents at a news conference on Thursday.
What you see in the documents today is a particular individual, Max Obuszewski, sitting to my left, who is listed in the Maryland high-intensity drug trafficking area database under the suspected crimes of terrorism. Mr. Obuszewski is a person who has devoted his entire life to nonviolent, peaceful protest activities on behalf of peace. If there is anyone in the world who is further from a terrorist, it's hard for me to imagine them. And that the Maryland State Police can think that being anti-war is a subset of terrorism is a terrifying prospect.
Longtime peace activist Max Obuszewski from the Baltimore Pledge of Resistance joins me now from Washington, D.C. We're also joined by another target of the surveillance of the Maryland State Police, Dave Zirin, the sports writer and author of, among other books, Welcome to the Terror Dome, The Pain, Politics, and Promise of Sports. He writes a weekly column called Edge of Sports. His latest article for Counterpunch is called COINTELPRO Comes to My Town. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Max Obuszewski, let's begin with you. Tell us how you learned about what was taking place.
You just played a clip of David Roca from the Maryland ACLU speaking. He called me. I was in court on last Wednesday. I'm a member of the Ghosts of the Iraq War. We were arrested March 12th protesting in the Senate gallery. I have a trial September 29th, so I was in court for a status hearing. When I got home, probably about 4 p.m., David called me to say they got this information from the Attorney General's office. This is the Maryland Attorney General's office. And he said, hope you're sitting down because I want to tell you that you've been listed as a terrorist. I mean, I know as a longtime peace activist that I'm being surveilled, and these documents are released as just a tip of the iceberg. But to be labeled, put into a database and accused of terrorism, and it's a drug trafficking database, that was beyond comprehension. It just indicates, in my opinion, the fallacy of the searches that are going on by our government and putting people into these databases. A lot of the questions at the press conference that day was about, have you traveled internationally? Do you have any trouble getting on airplanes and so on and so forth?
Can you talk about your work, Max? What do you do?
Well, I'm a full-time peace activist, and I mentioned earlier that I think this is the tip of the iceberg. 1996, July 4th, a group of us, a fairly large group, went out to the National Security Agency to protest the operations of the Puzzle Palace. Phil Berrigan, Jeremy Scahill, and I sat in front of a gate to protest the place. That was the first protest at the National Security Agency since 1973, when the Jonah House, Phil Berrigan, Elizabeth Callister, and others poured gallons of blood at the entrance. That's noted in James Bamford's book, Puzzle Palace. So we decided to start that up again. So this was July 4th of 1996. So we go out there every Independence Day or a date close to Independence Day since that time, and that's obviously going to put you on the radar screen. or acting with Phil Berrigan. I've been arrested with Phil Berrigan. I've joined him on many of the Plowshares actions that he took place, that he was involved in. And all of that's going to cause my name to be registered someplace. 5 of us were arrested October 4th of '03 at the National Security Agency. For whatever reason, 3 of us had our charges dropped, even though all 5 of us did the same thing, try to request a meeting with the NSA director. 2 of the people went to court the following August, '04, and in discovery, we finally got what we knew was going on, that the National Security Agency and other members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force were surveilling us. And I filed a FOIA request to try to get the information. They indicated, yes, we have information on the Pledge of Resistance, the Jonah House, and other protest groups, but we won't give you the information unless you pay $1,400. We had guardian angels who were willing to pay the $1,400, but we didn't think that was principled. We felt we should get this information without paying for it. So we then contacted the American Civil Liberties Union, and they filed lawsuits through Heller Ehrman, a Washington, D.C. law firm who's doing all this work pro bono with everybody, including the Maryland State Police. The Maryland State Police informed the ACLU that they had 1 document. They will not release it, though, because it would reveal covert operations. The Maryland ACLU then went to federal court in June of this year, and lo and behold, the Attorney General's office released 44 pages. I firmly believe, though, there's many, many more information. The Baltimore City Police, for example, claim they have no documents on us. Well, if you carefully read the documents that have been released, Baltimore City intelligence was always in the loop, in the surveillance, and so on. And the documents that were released in the NSA trial indicated to us that Baltimore intelligence was involved in that operation, watching us as we gathered at the American Friends Service Committee and then traveled out to the Fort Meade, where the National Security Agency is located.
Dave Zirin, you're a well-known sports writer, have written a few books. You're writing now about the Olympics in China. How did you get ensnared in this?
Amy, they picked on the wrong sports writer, and they picked on the wrong group of activists. For more than a decade, I've worked with an organization called the Campaign to End the Death Penalty. It's a group that does remarkable work, nodeathpenalty.org. I mean, we do such seditious activities as tabling at farmers markets, organizing pickets, and trying to raise awareness about the nature of the death penalty. And I had a little group that was meeting in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And if your listeners and viewers don't know anything about Tacoma Park, Maryland, you're far more likely to find tie-dye than terrorists, far more likely to find vegans than violence in Tacoma Park. And yet still they infiltrated, still they sent agents, still our taxpayer dollars went to pay people to infiltrate and take notes on our meetings. And it's